I followed my dreams and opened an antique store to have adventures and spend time as a family. Sometimes you have to climb a mountain and open some new doors to find the treasures inside. This is our life, this is our adventure, and this is Curiosity Inc. Well, good morning, everyone. So today I'm headed off to a lady's house. She's the same place that I got the really cool railway clock from. We are going to take the old Nash, going to scrape the windows off and hit the road. It's a frosty morning today. Time for us to roll out. And so far the old Nash has been pretty reliable. Not too much going wrong with it since I've owned it, even though it's been cold weather. So far the only hiccup I've had in the last couple days with the car is that the windshield wipers stopped working, but that was only because a vacuum line had come off underneath the dash once I put it back on. Wipers were good to go again. So in my second week here of driving this old Nash, it's been pretty darn good. And the tires are working great too. Really good on the snow, really good on the ice. Almost like a new car. And one of the things I like about driving around in other people's neighborhoods is that you see old cars that you wouldn't normally see. I'm just gonna take this off here. Is that like a Polara, or who's got some fat tires on that sucker? Well, back to the mission. Okay, we're here. Let's go see what we can find. So you went traveling overseas, your mom was saying. You picked a lot of stuff up.
Like all this stuff I brought back. Well, not this and this.
Okay.
I brought back in '78.
When you went over to England?
And the and that big pot that you.
Yeah, the big pot.
I mean, I don't know. I would say now I don't know how the hell I got all that stuff back, because nowadays.
Oh, on the airplane.
You never.
Yeah, like where would you fit something like that on an airplane?
There was a shop that in London that was, every time I went, it was closed, and I saw some candlesticks I thought were really interesting. It's got the name.
Yeah,
I
see.
And
so every time you went there, it was closed.
It was closed, and I saw these candlesticks through the window that I was really interested in, and I went back and I was waiting because they're supposed to open at a certain time, and that's my mom's, or my dad. Well,
it was your
dad's.
dad's? Okay, yeah. Okay. And so
anyway,
did you ever
the
get back
upshot of all this is that I missed my flight. I get to my flight in London. I hadn't traveled internationally. That was the days when everything was, either a charter or whatever. This mom and dad bought in, I think the early '70s.
Yeah, no, it's
at an armory fair in London, in England.
Oh, it's nice. It's got some good weight to it. It's been polished.
Yeah.
Which is, a lot of people don't like it when it's been polished, but that's okay. It's still really cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look here. Okay, so we've struck a deal on some of the antiques that were in the house. Just have to come out to my car here and make some room in the old Nash and make sure that everything's gonna fit. But yeah, success. So I'm back at the shop unloading some of the things I got, including this super cool US Navy style bomber jacket. It is actual leather, and sure, it's got all the patches and stuff. Now, it's not actually from World War II. I do get bomber jackets in that are from the war. It's still a good quality piece, and someone's gonna like it. Fits me pretty good. And I'm always a fan of the oddball stuff, so we ended up picking up this ashtray, which is an advertisement from Monroe Shocks. You've probably seen these before at dealerships or in repair shops, but something like this is a cool thing that if you have a garage with a nice classic car in there, something like that would be a cool thing to have sitting by. And the variety that came in today was pretty neat. This is probably like a 1930s motion lamp, very early one. It had a paper inside that rotated with the heat of the light bulb and gave the effect that you had the water going and the sky moving. Now it is missing the little piece that goes on top there, so I'll have to find another attachment. It basically sits on top of this little needle and rotates. It's missing, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work finding that. Otherwise the light itself is working, so getting close. Got a little carved statue of Napoleon, because why not have something French in the store. He's pretty cool. nice little display piece. You know, I always imagine something like that on a piano or on a nice bookshelf somewhere, so it's pretty cool. This is 1800s, probably mid 1800s. Nautical, of course, it's a looking glass or a telescope. It's not in the greatest shape. It'll be a decor piece more than anything. It probably end up in somebody's house on display. It still works, but it has a cracked lens, and it's just not that great. I've had these in before. They always do sell. A couple little cars. Now this one is kind of interesting. If you haven't seen these before, they were kind of common in the 70s. It's actually a transistor radio. So you put a little battery in there, and I can't remember. I think the wheel, that's it. You adjust the station by the one wheel on the side, and I think your on and off is on the other. Kind of a cool little novelty. And maybe, you know, something like this is probably only worth about 20 bucks or so. It's not like not going to retire off of that guy. Little Fram filter die cast, and one of the guys that came in today, he used to own a Fram filter dealership, so I ended up with some cool Fram stuff. Now this is neat. You probably know what this is from looking at it. This, of course, is a powder horn. Somebody has polished up all the brass on it, so it doesn't have the nice patina that it should have, but it does have good age to it. I haven't had a chance to look for maker's marks yet. What's cool about this one is it doesn't just have a cap that you take off to pour your grains of black powder in. It has this sort of measuring device here, like an automatic cap spring-loaded, so you can pour and then stop, so you can be fairly precise with your pouring. It's very heavy, I can tell you that much, and it still has a residue of black powder inside. That is a nice piece, and that will go nicely with our other vintage military and vintage firearms that we get in. Also got this little tin guy here. Now, I'm thinking he's probably a more modern replica. A lot of times in the original ones, you would see the maker's name. Now, he does have an A on him, and he could actually have some age. We'll have to do a little bit of research, a little bit of looking into this. Generally, if it's made in China and newer, it would have to be stamp made in China. This one is not. So I'll have to look up that logo and see if he is actually from the 50s. If he is a 1950s or 60s toy, he's in phenomenal condition, and it does still work. So people always like colorful little toys like that, whether, you know, kind of collect them, play with them, put them on display, whatever it is, people like that kind of stuff. So we always pick it up when we see it. And this was kind of cool. If you don't know what it is, it's a lantern, but it's a portable style that you could have actually taken out into the field with you. Sometimes they use them for military use, and we call it a campaign lantern. So the idea was you would expand this and put light inside, and the wind wouldn't knock your flame out. So you'd be able to use that and not worry about the flame getting blown out by the wind. Has a little nice hook for it, and this one definitely looks like it has some age. It is copper. It looks to me to be hand hammered. There's all sorts of hammer and tooling marks on here, so it's gonna be quite an old piece. Now I'm gonna look for maker's marks on it, which there may or may not be, but if I had to peg it, I would probably say mid 1800s, somewhere around there, just from the construction, possibly even earlier, because it's fairly crude. But you know, it's all there, and it's intact. Pretty cool lantern, especially if I can find out if it has any kind of military markings or lineage, and then that's where you'd put your oil or your candle. So pretty neat. Pick this up. It's not really terribly old. It's a modern sort of replica of a ship's nautical clock. It is heavy brass, so it is really good quality. It is a heavy brass one, but it has a battery operated movement, not like the original, which would have been mechanical. So, you know, somebody might buy that just as a decor piece. It's still worth maybe, you know, $40 to $80. I know that's a bit of a range, but there is a range on these sorts of things. So probably somewhere in there. So kind of cool. And a couple little decorative items too. Now, this is meant to look like a half hull, which is what the shipbuilders would have had to give the builders in their shop an idea of what shape the hull should be. Now, a real half hull like this is quite large. I mean, they're 4 feet long or so. I've had a few of them in the store, the ones from the 1800s. This is one that somebody's done as a little replica. Probably still would have sold for around $100 or so, even as a replica. So somebody wants a nice little decor piece. It's not going to take up a whole lot of room and really give them that vintage nautical look. Something like this would go in the shop for probably about $65, $70 Canadian. And I think at that price, it's a nice piece. There had to be some craftsmanship in there. This is one thing that I haven't actually had in the shop before. I really get into the oil and gas stuff a fair bit, so we do get oil cans and collectibles like of that nature in, but I haven't had one of these. Let me show you what it is. It's a 1940s Fram filter lamp. Now it lights up, as you can see it's working right now. It's in pristine condition, and this would have been used to put in the dealership to just display that, you know, they sold Fram filters, and of course use your Fram, complete engine protection. Really cool piece. As you can see, it's pretty big. Like, it's probably about 1.5 feet tall. So it's not a small piece by any means. But if you're a collector of oil and gas memorabilia and are building sort of a little shop that has been decorated that way, something like this is going to be pretty cool. And I guarantee not many people have one. So I'm really happy to get that in today. And of course, being up in Canada, hockey is really big, so when I see old hockey cards, we pick them up. Now, there was a couple in here that I thought were a little bit better, so that we put them in plastic holders. These are Bobby Orr cards. Now, I believe, well, if you don't know Bobby Orr, if you're from the Boston area, you probably know him very well. He's very, very famous Hall of Fame hockey player. This card on the left is when he'd been playing a few years. The one on the right is when he was 22 years old. So condition overall is not too bad on it. It has a bit of a crease in it, but it still should have some good value. So never hurts to buy a little bundle of hockey cards, because you never know when you're going to get a good one in there. And Bobby Orr cards like this can be worth well over $100 each. So good score. And we were also able to pick up this guy. A 1960s Coors Beer neon sign in good working condition. People love to decorate their bars and their basements or restaurants with things like this, so this should be a pretty quick sell. And I don't know if you guys remember that I had these vintage rolled up World War I yard-long photos. Now, they weren't in great shape, but I've got them back from the framing shop, and I think they look pretty good, so have a look. It's always like Christmas morning every time you unwrap something that's come back from the framing shop. Now, these pictures were really neglected for many years, but here they are now. Looking much better. So this is 16th Provincial School of Musketry, Calgary, 1917. The reason why I frame them together versus separate, first off, they are different people. You know, they've changed out for the picture, but it's the same photographer, same shot. And if you can see in this one, the door is open or closed, and then someone must have walked out and left that door open. I think that's just really neat. I didn't want to break up the set just because it tells a story. So that is committed, sold. Some fellow is coming in, actually a gentleman who's in the military is coming in to pick it up in a couple days. So I think that looks pretty darn sharp now it's all framed up. So a few neat things through this week so far, and you just never know what's going to walk through the door today. That's the excitement of this business. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't yet already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's lots more videos coming. If you see anything on our website or on Facebook or Instagram, where we post a lot of things that are for sale and you're interested, we do ship anywhere in the world. So happy to mail this stuff out. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you all soon and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.